let's just jump right in. We live in a world that is just overflowing with information, right? But there's one thing, one resource that's getting scarcer and more valuable every single day, and that's your attention. And right now, there is a massive, kind of hidden economy built entirely around capturing and, well, selling it. Yeah, you know the feeling. We've all been there. That moment you look up and realize time has just vanished. You were just scrolling, tapping, swiping. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not an accident. That is by design. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the whole system that makes it happen. So, how did we get here? How did something as simple as paying attention become the fuel for a multi-trillion-dollar industry? It all starts with this really simple but honestly profound shift in how our world works. And you know what's wild? This isn't even a new idea. The economist Herbert Simon saw this coming way back in 1971. He basically said that once information becomes infinite, the real scarce thing isn't the information itself, it's our own limited brain power to actually process any of it. And that brings us to the formal definition, the attention economy. It's basically an economy where all these different companies are in a bare-knuckle brawl for your focus. See, the more of your time and your mental energy they can grab, the more money they make, usually by selling that captured attention to advertisers. In this system, you're not the customer. You're the product being sold. And this is the core of it all, right? You've got this infinite waterfall of content coming at you 24/7. But we only have a finite number of hours in the day. That scarcity is exactly what makes every single second you spend looking at a screen an incredibly valuable asset that companies are literally fighting over. And I mean it when I say fight. It is an intense, all-out race. It's what you'd call a zero-sum game, meaning a minute you spend on one app is a minute that can't be spent on another one, or, as it turns out, on pretty much anything else. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It really puts the scale of this whole thing into perspective. The CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, he famously said they aren't just competing with other streaming services. No, they're competing with everything else you could possibly be doing with your time, even something as fundamental as sleeping. Okay, so if this is a giant race for our attention, what are the actual tactics these companies are using to win? Well, it all comes down to some really clever psychology and some very, very deliberate design choices. Right. This isn't some kind of magic, it's pure science. There's a whole field of study that's dedicated to influencing our behavior, often without us even realizing it's happening. It's called This is the Playbook, Persuasive Design. It's all about building apps and websites not just to be useful, but to be as sticky as possible. Every single feature, from the color of a notification button to the way a feed refreshes, is meticulously tested to see if it can keep you on the platform for just a few seconds longer. This quote from Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, is maybe the best way to understand one of their biggest tricks. You know when you pull down to refresh your social media feed, you have no idea what you're going to get. It could be nothing, or it could be a juicy notification. That's called an intermittent variable reward, and it's the exact same psychological principle that makes slot machines in Vegas so addictive. And what's really interesting is that we can actually see a direct comparison here. On one side, you have what researchers call attention capture damaging patterns. But for every single one of those, there's a healthier alternative. Instead of an infinite scroll that never ends, you could just have a clear stopping point. Instead of alerts that create a fear of missing out, you could have prompts for comfortable missing out. This proves that a less manipulative design is absolutely possible. And this right here, this is the engine that drives so much of social media. The like button was never just a simple little feature. The former president of Facebook even admitted it was designed specifically to give you a little dopamine hit. It creates this powerful loop that basically conditions you to keep coming back, to post more, always chasing that next little hit of social validation. So yeah, these platforms are free to use, but they absolutely come at a cost. And that cost isn't paid in dollars. It's paid in the slow erosion of our focus, our well-being, and maybe even our ability to think for ourselves. Just let that number sink in for a second. 80. 80 times a day. You have to ask yourself, are we really making 80 conscious choices to do that? Or have our brains been rewired by these persuasive systems to constantly, compulsively seek that next little reward? And the consequences are really serious and widespread. You've got personal issues like addiction and anxiety, and a reduced ability to do deep thinking because we're just constantly being interrupted. And then on a societal level,
These platforms are perfect for amplifying misinformation and deepening political divides, all because the most outrageous stuff often gets the most engagement.
This distraction actually works on two different levels. First, you have functional distraction. That's the immediate problem, right? You can't finish a book or get through a work project without checking your phone. But over time, that morphs into something deeper, existential distraction. That's when the platform's simple goal of just keeping you scrolling starts to completely overshadow your own bigger, more important life goals. It makes it hard to even figure out what you truly value anymore.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but it really doesn't have to be this way. The problem was created by design, which means it can be fixed by better design. There is a path forward.
And look, while personal discipline is great, we have to be honest. It's not a fair fight. Like Tristan Harris said, there are literally 1,000 people on the other side of that screen whose job it is to break down your self-control. So the real long-term solution is to start demanding technology that is designed to respect our attention, not to exploit it.
Now, check this out, because this little piece of data completely flips the script. Recent research shows that a strong brand, a quality piece of content, only needs 1.5 seconds of your attention to create a lasting memory. Just 1.5 seconds. This proves that you don't need to hijack someone's brain for minutes on end. Quality can absolutely 100% beat quantity. So, at the end of the day, your attention is your most valuable and your most limited resource. The people who built our digital world, they know this, and they've built a massive economy to capture it. But now, you know it too. And just understanding the game is the very first step to taking back control. So the next time you pick up your phone, just remember, where you choose to spend your attention, well, that's one of the most important choices you can make.